picture up here. Just there with the picture. No, no. And Deborah's here in the room as well.
Okay.
Tell us we're not going to play it now.
We're not going to play it the first thing.
Okay.
But maybe I can press play and pause it so it doesn't go back off.
I can definitely get it.
No, I know. I just want to have it on the screen.
Okay, it's on show. We Kleenexes if anybody needs them. Everybody ready? Y'all come closer. If you all are ready, we'll begin the press conference. Good morning. I'm Attorney Ben Crump, along with Attorney Steve Wagner. Our law firm has the honor of representing the family of Rhyker Earl, who tragically died in the care and custody of the Sheriff's Department in DeMont, Indiana. Also present with me today is Attorney Sue Ann Robinson, who you will hear from along with the family members. The family members who are present here from Rhyker Earl's family are his grandmother, Sharon Crass Earl, his aunt, Miracle Galinsky, his father, Travis Earl, his sister, Tara Earl, his aunt, Carrie Earl, and the mother of his children, Cassie Paris, as well as friends of Rhyker who didn't think it robbery to come from Indiana and stand for justice with his family. And you will hear from all of his family members who are just completely devastated and heartbroken. We stand before you with this grieving family who have now become advocates for justice, for accountability, and most importantly now, because they know they can't bring Rhyker back, for change, to pray and to work and to fight so this don't happen to any other family whose loved ones have epilepsy, who suffers from seizures. They are trying to make sure that the pain they endure that was so preventable doesn't befall another family. Rhyker Earl was a beloved son, father, brother, and friend. He was known for his vibrant spirit, his kindness, and love for life. His family is devastated by this loss. Most people across America, when they hear about this tragedy, are devastated because he was having a medical crisis. They did what most people in America would do? They called 911. They needed a helping hand. They didn't need a death sentence. They didn't need excessive force. They didn't need him to be pinned face down in handcuffs. As his grandmother has the sign, it says it all. We call the police for help, not for death. And when you watch this video, it is very shocking. It's very disturbing. It's very tragic because you hear from the beginning why his grandmother called them. Everybody knew this wasn't a criminal matter. This was a medical matter. So why treat him this so callously as they did? You're going to hear from his aunt and his sister. His aunt was dead in the room. You're going to hear from his sister who was listening on the phone. His grandmother right outside the house. You're going to hear their perspective firsthand. And when you watch the video and you hear their perspective, it won't add up. Nothing about this adds up. It was on September 8, 2024. Rhyker suffered a seizure. Rhyker's grandmother called the police seeking help during the medical emergency. He was in distress and needed assistance. Earlier that day, he suffered another seizure, leaving him confused and vulnerable. In the second seizure, when the Jasper County Police entered the house, Rhyker's grandmother, Connie, told them, you're going to hear her on the video, he has epilepsy. He suffers from seizures. And everybody knew it. She kept telling officers when they entered what was going on. The video released on September 27th, 2024, Friday afternoon, shows Rhyker pleading for his life while officers had him pinned down, face down, handcuffed. They seemed to ignore his cries for help. The officers knew he was in crisis. As I said, his grandmother had told all of them. She notified officers as they entered the home that he suffered from seizures. His family believes that this tragedy was caused by a failure of duty, a lack of training, and a lack of compassion. The released compilation video shows that within minutes of entering the home, a deputy suddenly escalated the situation by charging at Rhyker while cursing and yelling at him. And you're going to hear it on the video. This officer's behavior prompted all the other officers to join in and tackle Rhyker from his standing position to the floor. Had him face down. Face down is the most dangerous position for someone having a seizure or in a post-seizure state, as they don't have complete control of their bodies and could choke on their own tongue. The officers handcuffed Rhyker, putting their body weight upon him, while Rhyker's face is being forced down into a pillar in on the kitchen floor with handcuffs piercing his wrist. He can be heard begging for help multiple times, calling for his grandma and pleading to be released on the life of his children. He said, on the life of my children, y'all are going to kill me. And you listen to the video, I don't want to misquote it. Rhyker was unarmed, suffering from seizure clusters, surrounded by several officers, and presented no real risk of harm to the officers. Yet multiple officers kept him down using their weight to keep him face down while he was in handcuffs. And as egregious as anything, his grandmother, Connie, and them just never understood it. But very egregious. You see an officer in the video stepping on Rhyker's back with his dirty boot, while an EMS with his gloves are administering sedatives. I don't know where that's in the training, where a person who you know is having seizures, you have them face down, you have them handcuffed, and then an officer takes his dirty boot and presses down on his back. I mean, it's just insult to injury. The family wants accountability. They want to know who was the first officer who came in escalating the situation. From a person they knew was having a medical crisis. They knew was having a seizure. And they certainly want to know who was this officer who put his dirty boot on Rhyker's back while they was giving him shots. This is going to be very emotional. Some of the family members haven't seen the video, and for a lot of us, this is a cause. It's another story. But this is their family. And Rhyker was very loved. Rhyker mattered very much to their family. So this video is about 3 minutes, and we're going to press at bencrump.com. We'll get it to your outlet so you can have it for your coverage. Attorney Robinson, if you can start the video. And
I don't know if you were there. What time did it happen? Yeah. So it seemed about 5 o'clock. Was the one, and he was doing his I said, I'm going to stay home. I'm going to stay with you. Going to the hospital. All right, don't fucking it up. You don't fucking it up.
Yeah, let's now get him in the recovery position. Yeah.
Obviously, that's very emotional. You're going to hear from his family members. They don't think that's all of the video. And so their demand is for not only transparency, accountability, change. They want justice for Rhyker Earl. They want a thorough and transparent investigation into these actions of all the officers, all the officials involved. They still struggle to understand how could they handcuff a person in an epileptic crisis who's begging for help. We believe that accountability is essential. Officers who are sworn to protect and serve must be held responsible for their actions, and law enforcement agencies must be held responsible for their actions or inactions, especially when those actions lead to a loss of life for an individual who's in medical crisis and needed a helping hand, did not need excessive force, did not need to be face down, did not need to be in handcuffs. Addressing mental health and medical emergencies is critical in America today. You're going to hear from Attorney Sue Ann Robinson for a few minutes to talk about this issue, because as tragic as it is, the family wants this to be a teachable moment for America. They have been contacted by so many agencies, so many people saying my family member has seizures as well, and we're praying for you all. It is really anybody who has a loved one who has seizures. It is your worst nightmare. They call people for help, and they engage in excessive force that causes your loved one to be taken from this earth in such a tragic manner. So Attorney Robinson is going to address you, and then we're going to have the family members bear their heart. And remember, this is all new to them. This was the first time many of them even saw a snippet of the video. Attorney Robinson.
Good morning. Over 3 million Americans suffer from epilepsy. And on behalf of Rhyker's family, we are calling for systemic changes within law enforcement agencies to ensure that individuals experiencing medical emergencies are treated with compassion and care as opposed to hostility and indifference. And Rhyker should have been shown dignity. A boot on the back of his neck while in medical distress is not dignity, and it's not the compassion that we expect from law enforcement. And the Epilepsy Foundation has made a statement in CNN.com, and it's very important. They also have rolled out training for law enforcement officers to deal with this type of emergency, because it affects 1.2 of the American population.
Thank you very much, Attorney Robinson. Now you're here from the people who have been most affected by this, starting with his aunt, Miracle Galansky, who has been a voice that refuses to be silenced over this. Miracle?
My name's Miracle Galinsky. I'm Rhyker's aunt. All this footage shows is the countless steps that could have and should have been done differently as Rhyker continued to plead for help. I want to see the full footage. Imagine this being one of your family members. Wouldn't you want to see it too? As a witness to this tragic night, I know there's more footage out there somewhere. There's footage of me screaming, pleading, he's blue, take his pulse, screaming so loud that people outside heard it. You don't see it anywhere, it's on a camera. Or after he went limp, they finally checked his pulse and realized there wasn't one. Me screaming at the officers, EMTs, you just killed him. You don't hear that anywhere on the footage, do you? I want to see the full footage. That's it.
Thank you, Miracle. Thank you for continuing to voice your concerns. Ms. Sharon, this is his grandmother, Sharon.
I was there that night. I got there shortly before the end of everything. I could hear Rhyker in there screaming, but most of all, I will never forget my daughter Miracle flying out that front door screaming, they just killed him, they just killed him. She ran back in the house. I think she doubted. She came back out. They just killed him, they just killed him. I will never forget that day. As we went to the service, I noticed on Rhyker many bruises on his hands. I know that was from the handcuffs, bruises on his face, his eye. That was like torture all over again. He went through torture and he just needed some help for a seizure. I don't understand. I'll never understand. But we need change. We need change. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sharon. Thank you very much. Now you will hear from his sister, Tara Earl. Yes. And then after that, you're going to hear from the mother of his children, Cassie Paris, who really has a lot to say. She has to explain to his children what happened to their father. But first, Tara.
I was not there that night, but I got a phone call from my aunt. She told me over the phone, you need to get here to Rhyker's house. It's not good. And I could just hear my brother on the phone begging for help, screaming, I can't breathe. And then watching the video, I couldn't even get past the point where I heard him saying, I want Tara. I hope nobody has to feel this pain like my family is. Rhyker never deserved this. He's a very good person with the purest heart I've ever known. I just want justice for my brother.
Thank you so much, Tara. He was calling out for you. Beautiful picture of the church.
Rhyker was loved by many. He was selfless and lived for everyone around him. I will forever cherish the memories we made together. I've seen him have over 50 seizures for the last 6 years, and he has never been aggressive. only lost, scared, and confused. It takes anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes for him to come back after a seizure. I have to remind him who I am and what's going on multiple times before he understands. He may not comply, which is normal after a seizure, but he's never aggressive. The last message I received from him said, "I had a seizure, but I feel fine." The next thing I knew, he was on life support. His children will miss him greatly. He won't be able to attend school functions like daughter-daddy dances, baseball games, proms, graduation, or family trips, birthday parties, weddings, and all the things in between. All I hear is Daddy is sleeping and the cries of his mother from the day we laid him to rest. Our hearts will forever be broken without him. Thank you.
Read your part. There's one other important announcement Cassie's told me and the family she wants to make, and I think it's very relevant. Cassie.
Me and many others have epilepsy or other diseases that can make difficulty standing or speaking clearly. In addition,
Take your time.
you may have
She has. I'll stop it. Cassie, can you? She's about to read about Cassie.
Come on up for just a second.
Just come right here. About her condition.
So Cassie has MG. It's a disease that can make you weak and make you have difficulty standing or speaking clearly. In addition, she may have drooping eyelids, double vision, and difficulty breathing and swallowing. Sometimes these symptoms are mistaken for intoxication. If my breathing and swallowing difficulties is severe, I may be having an MG crisis. Her concern is
if I am ever in a medical emergency, I hope and pray I'm not in the same situation as Rhyker. His children deserve to have both of their parents. And now the whole family is worried and concerned about calling for help.
And it's just heartbreaking. Cassie told us this morning, Attorney Crump, I want to read this because we got to make sure that law enforcement knows how to interact with people having medical crises. She said, if it happened to me and they did this to me, then our children wouldn't have either parent. That's deep. You think about what she and the family are going through. She talked about how Rhyker, his grandmother, his aunt, his sister talked about how if you have a seizure, you're confused, you're dazed, you don't know what's going on. Can you imagine what Rhyker was thinking with those officers on top of him, with the officer putting his boot on him? I mean, how confused he must have been. This is about making sure law enforcement not just in Jasper County, and not just in Indiana, but all across America, is trained to deal with people having a medical crisis and not escalating the situation of a person who's already in a confused state. We just want those law enforcement officials to think if this was their family member. That's what we're saying. That's what this family said when they said a lack of compassion. They said it was a lack of training, but most importantly, they felt it was a lack of compassion. And so we demand justice for Rhyker. We demand accountability, and we demand transparency. Miracle, Ms. Connie said they know there's more video out there, so they just want it all. They just think it should be complete transparency. They know the video cut certain ways and he was moved to different places, as you told me, Miracle. We don't want to just show it all.
Show it all.
So it can not only help families, but it can help law enforcement officers not make the errors and omissions that they made in this situation. Mr. Travis, his father, if you just want to come up just for a second. Time, Mr. Earl.
He's very emotional.
That's his baby.
I love my son very much. And I will miss him. And I just hope that some accountability taken for what happened.
Yes, sir.
And how you did.
Thank you so much, Mr. Earl. You can see how much he was loved and how much this has affected the very core of the Earl family. Is there anybody else? Okay. At this time, we will try to take some of your questions, if you have any.
What should have happened in this case? Is there a protocol for dealing with people who are suffering a seizure or coming out of a seizure that we should have known about, should have applied?
Yeah, you know, that's the big thing that everybody, all the epilepsy foundations across the country have been reaching out to our office, Attorney Wagner's office, and the family, saying the first and most elementary thing you do is when a person is having a seizure, is you try to give them space. That's what they're all telling us. You do not take them down to the ground. You do not have them in handcuffs. That, I mean, if we were trying to teach a course on what not to do, it would be this video. And so it's a teachable moment. This has to be a teachable moment for America. That will be the legacy of Rhyker Earl. We look at George Floyd video as a teachable moment, and we pray that Rhyker Earl's video is a teachable moment as well. Whenever you have people face down complaining about breathing, saying, I can't breathe, law enforcement, if we learned anything from George Floyd, is you don't keep them down there. His Aunt Miracle talked about that when she first came in. She was confused why they had him face down. with him saying, you know, he need help, he can't breathe.
Mr. Crump, if I'm correct, the autopsy results haven't come in yet.
They have not.
Do you believe, because we also see, of course, several shots being administered over the course of Rhyker being on the ground. Do you believe, however, that it is the fact that he was kept on the ground, face down, that directly led to his death?
You know, we're waiting for the results of the autopsy. We don't know if this is a George Floyd situation or an Elijah McClain situation. But we are waiting to find out what the autopsy shows, whether it was the prone position that led to his tragic demise or whether it was the sedatives that were administered to him. That we know that he had had seizures before. It just boggles the mind. Why didn't they do what they did earlier that day? Why did this officer escalate and they take him to the ground? You knew he was having a seizure. You're not in control of your faculties. You don't know what you're doing. EMT should, everybody should know the situation.
What was said earlier in the day?
He had a seizure earlier that day.
But how did they handle it earlier?
His grandmother said they handled it and it was uneventful. They came in and did what they normally do when he has seizures.
He had two at Tara's earlier in that day.
Yeah. Tara, you want to?
Yeah.
This is his sister Tara, who he called out for in the video.
They asked him the questions: what year is it? What's your name? Who's the president? It took him a couple minutes, but he answered everything correctly, and that was pretty much it. They asked for a signature, and then they left, because he came right out of that seizure.
And I don't have a person with a seizure in my family, but people who have family members say this is something normal. You go into the seizure, it lasts for 15, 20 minutes, and then you come down. Is that correct, Tara?
And he had two seizures at your house earlier in the day?
Yes,
And then do that night.
and he had 2 that night.
Right,
Can you ask, so once he went to the hospital, it sounds like based on the body camera video, Terry, you met him at the hospital, right? Did they tell in those days between this incident and when he finally passed away, what did they tell you at the hospital about what they were treating him for and if they thought that he was going to make it out okay?
My father would know more.
Mr. Travis, do you remember? Mr. Travis Earl was, all of them were there at the hospital, but they was talking to Mr. Earl.
Yeah, they, any information they wanted to talk to either parent, you know, first. And what was the question?
What did they tell you at the hospital about what they were treating him for? And then did they give you any kind of like prognosis in those days? It sounds like I think it was 2 days, right? There.
8th, 9th, 10th. So yeah. The first information I got from a doctor was when they come out and he said that they got the results from the first MRI back, and right then and there it was kind of he's you know, he was real to the point about there's significant damage to his brain at this point from the first MRI, and then over the next couple of days they had ran several more tests, and it just was what I remember, you know, was just slowly getting the brain activity was less and less. He wasn't moving anything or nothing like that. And then the last thing I could tell you was that when they pulled me and his mother to the back, and the doctor was on speakerphone and 2 nurses were there, and me and Dorothy were sitting there. And then that was the 10th when they just said over that speakerphone, the doctor had said your son's time of death is 3:15. Dorothy had lost it and left, and then he asked me if I could. She went straight to Rhyker, you know, and they asked if I could finish up without, and the nurses asked the doctor that if they could just finish up with me with the information, and really that's all I can think of right now. You know, there was no one like pulling the plug. Once you're brain dead, they take him off of the machines that were keeping him alive, and then he just passes naturally because he couldn't, you know, stay alive without the machines. And that's it.
There was one other follow-up, and I was thinking of it because I see him in this photo with the baby. In the body camera video, there was an infant, someone, and I don't know who was holding it.
Tara.
My son. That's your son. Okay, I didn't know if it was one of Rhyker's children. And then the other question that we wanted to ask: did anybody tell you how many shots he was administered and
what I heard that day? Because once I had gotten there, when I pulled up and was walking up his front porch steps to go inside to see what was going on, that's when my sister Miracle was running out the door screaming that they just killed him. They just killed him. And I was told, I couldn't tell you by who. You can imagine all that going on, seeing him on the ground like that. 3.
did they tell you what they gave him?
Sedatives, that I don't know the name of it or whatever. And then I was also told that one of the whoever was administering the last one said, you know, this is enough to put a bull down. So, you know.
I can answer the question about the sedatives
Okay.
if you like.
Please. This is Aunt Miracle.
I was informed by one of the medical professionals at the hospital that he was given 2 doses of one sedative, I'm not sure of the name, unmarked, unaccounted for, however you want to say that, amount of Hadol and Benadryl, and 4 doses of ketamine, for a total of at least 7 shots were accounted for.
And those were all on scene or some at the hospital?
All on scene. He never regained consciousness after he left his home.
That, you know, it is telling about the MRI what caused him to have so much brain damage. That's normally lack of oxygen. But we will wait for the autopsy. One thing is for certain, his family has vowed that they won't be quiet, that they won't let them sweep this under the rug. It's too important of a case.
Sorry. I know we don't have autopsy back yet, and we can't say anything definitive, but something that we can see looking at the video is that there is mention by EMTs of needing to have an intubation kit on hand in reaction to the dose that was given. So is it possible that the sedatives were a contributing factor to this death? Do you think? Can you speak on that?
We do not know. As I said earlier, either this is going to be a George Floyd situation where the lack of oxygen to the brain killed him, or it's going to be an Elijah McClain situation where EMTs administering drugs killed him. We don't know. But as we said, anytime a person is complaining about breathing and saying, I can't breathe, I vow that we will get to the truth of what happened if they die in police custody, because it's not supposed to happen when you're having a seizure that you end up dead from people putting their weight on you and having you face down handcuffed. I still want to see that training manual.
And could you just respond to Jasper County Sheriff's Office? They're saying they claim that they did everything they can to not restrict breathing. They put a pillow on the floor because he was banging his head on the floor. That was the response that we got when the video came out. So if there's any response you can give on that.
Well, it is real simple in America from the lessons of George Floyd. When somebody is complaining about breathing or I can't breathe, you have them face down, you're supposed to get them in a seated position. I just think this right now is elementary in law enforcement after that tragic killing of George Floyd, where they kept them face down. So, the only thing I can say is what the family said. They believe it was a lack of training, a lack of humanity and compassion to keep him down there with him saying help so many times, saying, oh my children, oh my children, oh my children. I mean, that's a profound statement to make. It does remind you of George Floyd calling for his mama, even though she was already dead. People, I guess, when they're losing breath and losing consciousness, their subconscious takes over many times, and they start saying things that are just riveting. Any other questions?
You have not filed a lawsuit just yet.
We have not.
What are you waiting?
Well, we're waiting to get information, but we do plan on behalf of his family, on behalf of his children, Attorney Wagner, Attorney Robinson, Attorney Mustafa, and our legal team to explore every legal avenue to get full justice for Rhyker. We want accountability. Obviously, the district attorney will decide criminal culpability, but we will decide civil accountability, and we will zealously represent every interest of his family, his children, because they deserve it. They deserve it. Cassie's already saying, children ask questions. The only problem is the answers are very difficult. And so we not only bring legal actions to try to get justice, but also to give his children answers.
Please have Cassie and Tara just spell their names for us.
Yeah, I think we'll do that at the end. There was any.
Have you had any contact, anybody in your family, have you had any contact with Illinois State Police, anybody working on the investigation to make sure that you're apprised of the...
Indiana State Police.
I'm sorry, sorry.
Yes, ma'am.
The only people that have been contacted so far by the Indiana State Police is Connie and Chuck Widener.
And how is that going? Are they keeping you up to date? How's that?
Okay, so I'm going to go back on that. We've been contacted. The only people that have actually spoke to them and given a statement is Connie and Chuck Widener. So we've been in contact. We do have interviews scheduled, but anybody that's given a statement is only Chuck and Connie as of right now.
As grandmother and grandfather, and I know some congressional members have reached out to the family because they understand that, as Attorney Robinson said, 3 million Americans are diagnosed as being epileptic.
Do you have any sense that the U.S. Department of Justice might also take a look at this case?
We don't know as of yet. We haven't been notified.
Okay.
Any other questions? Connie, can you spell your, I'm sorry, Cassie, can you spell your whole name?
My name is Cassandra Paris. I go by Cassie Paris. CASSIE PARIS.
Thank you. Yeah.
My name is Tara Earl. TARAEARL.
And his children are ages 2 and 6. He has a 2-year-old daughter and a 6-year-old son. Cassie, you won't be alone. The whole village will be there to help raise his children. We will continue to keep you updated. Press at bencrump.com can provide you the videos. Attorney Wagner and our legal teams will inform you of any updates, especially if there is some kind of discipline that is, I guess we're notified of any discipline to any of the officers or any of the other government actors. We await the leadership of the Sheriff's Department and the District Attorney to let the family know what they will do in regards to this matter. Justice for Rhyker.
Justice for Rhyker.